one form, there's several forms of equations of lines. There's standard, there's slope, point slope, there's slope intercept. We're going to be focusing today on slope intercept. So y equals mx plus b. We're going to put our equations in that form because the slope's easily identified, y-intercept is easily identified, and it will be easy for us to plug in a point to come up with an equation if we have some information. So this equation form is what we're going to use today. So on our problems, we're going to be find the equation given the slope and a point. On the line. So we want to find the equation of the line that goes through the point negative 6, 3 and has a slope of 4. So negative 6, 3, that gives us an x value and a y value on our line. And 4 is the slope, that's the m. So when we look at this equation, y equals mx plus b, we can substitute in a value for y, a value for m, and a value for x to help us figure out what the b is, which is your y-intercept, and then we'll be able to come up with the equation. So we're going to do that. Where you see y, you're going to use the y value from our point. So that's going to be 3 equals. Our slope is 4, m is 4, so we'll put 4 there. The x coordinate is, that x value we're going to use is negative 6 plus b. And now we need to solve for b. Negative 6 times 4 is a negative 24. And then to isolate b, I'm going to add 24 to both sides. So 27 is the value of b. Now I only use this negative 6 and 3 in the equation initially to help me find b. Now I'm going to go back up to this equation and I'm going to substitute what I know in for m and b, and I'm going to leave y and x as the variables y and x. So my final answer is going to be y equals the slope of 4 times x plus 27. And that is the equation of that line in slope-intercept form that goes through the point negative 6, 3 and it has a slope of 4. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Recap, we rewrite our slope-intercept form with all the symbols, variables in there. We use the x and y from the point that's given and the slope, plug that into the formula, solve for b, go back into the formula and put in your slope and y-intercept, and that's it. Okay, let's do another one. Whoa. All right, so our second one, our point that the line goes through is 0, 2, and the slope is 1/3. So the 0, 2 gives us the x and the y, and we have the slope. We're going to plug that information into this equation, y equals mx plus b. So that will be y is 2, so 2 equals, my slope is 1/3 times the x of 0 plus b. 1/3 times 0 is 0. So 2 equals 0 plus b. 0 plus b is just b. b equals 2. So we come back to this equation. We're going to plug in the value for b, which is the y-intercept, and the value for m, which is the slope, to have our final equation, y equals 1/3 x plus 2. Whenever x is 0 and we have a y value, that's your y-intercept. So we could have just gone straight to this equation and not had to do this work and said, okay, my y-intercept is 2, so that's what b equals. But if you can't identify it that way, then you can go ahead and plug in the values for x and y. But this one was the y-intercept was given to us. All right, next one. Our point is -1, -3, and the slope is -3. We want to find the equation of that line. Sierra, what's this going to do? What am I going to have under my y equals mx plus b with all the substitutions? It's going to be what equals? Okay. Then we simplify the -3 times a -1 to give us 3. And then what do we do, Tessa? Subtract 3 over. So we're going to get b equals a -6. Now what do we do, Autumn? So what's that going to be? Oh, -6. Yep. There we go. Next one, which is letter D. Is that correct? Our point is 8, -5. Our slope is 0. 8, -5, and our slope is 0. We still use the y equals mx plus b. That's what we start with. And Tegan, tell me what that will look like when we plug in our values. What's your first equation you're going to write below that y equals mx plus b? What's the y coordinate of the point we're given? So -5 equals 0 times 8 plus b. So we get a -5 equals 0 plus b, so b equals a -5, correct? We would. When we plug back into this equation, when we put our slope in there, we have y equals 0x minus 5, right? You don't have to put the 0x. 0 times x is just 0. 0 minus 5 is a -5. So the correct or a simplified equation would be y equals -5. What kind of line is that? Y equals -5. Vertical or horizontal? Horizontal, because it's going to go through all the y values are -5. So it will be a horizontal line that goes through the y-axis at -5. Okay, let's do another one. This line goes through the point -4, -4. Oh, let's change that up a little bit. Let's do -2, 10. And the slope is undefined.
You wouldn't have a y, you would have an x.
Yeah, so this is a special case that I don't know how quite very well to explain it algebraically, plugging it into y equals mx plus b. So because the slope is undefined, we know that it is what kind of line?
Vertical.
Vertical. So let's say 10 is here. I just look at the point that's given, negative 2, 10. If I plotted that, that's a point on the line, correct? And it's a vertical line so that I know if I drew that, I could just draw the vertical line through that. So which axis does this point cross?
The X.
The x-axis. And where does it cross the x-axis?
-2.
At -2. That's the equation of our line. Algebraically, you know, an undefined slope could be 1 over 0, but we can't even use that value because that's undefined. There's not a number to represent that. So plugging it into this is not helpful because we can't take 1 over 0 times whatever our x-coordinate was. In this case, it's a -2. So when you have a slope that's undefined, you just know you're not going to have a y value. Your equation comes from whatever the x-coordinate is. And in this case, x is a -2. That's the equation of the line. It's just one of those that you're going to have to remember. Undefined is a vertical line, and you can either look at it graphically to figure out what your equation is, or remember that it's the x-coordinate. The line will go through that. What?
How do you remember that's undefined? I mean, like, how do you remember that it's vertical?